Hey guys, welcome back to a new video. Today's video is all about figuring out who you are through trauma. When you've gone through trauma or traumas, whatever, any really hard thing that you have gone through in your life that makes you almost no longer feel like you're you. You feel like you're someone else and you see everyone else in life surpassing you in a way, and they're doing all the things that you want to do, and you try to attempt to do all those things too and get where you want to be, or like how you saw your life, you're trying to get to that point and you just can't seem to figure it out, and you just keep getting into all these situations or relationships that aren't serving you, and they get really bad, and then you go on to the next relationship or what have you, and you start to notice a pattern, and then you come to the point of feeling like, why me? Why am I like this? If that seems like somewhere that you are now, or something that you have been thinking about or wondering about yourself, this is the video for you. So I'm not going to go into details in this video. I'm just going to be talking about things that have helped me to realize that I can too get to the point where I want to be, and I can get to the point where I would see other people and I felt like there was no way, because I felt honestly like I was messed up. Like I was just not able to do those things that everyone else can do, because I felt almost like I wasn't normal. So let's just say this. So there's always choices in life. Life is full of choices, but not everyone's choices are theirs. And trauma survivors know that more than anybody else. So what I mean is, choices you make do not always define who you are. They don't always define who you are. You are, like, honestly, I have had to make a ton of hard choices in my life where if there's two choices, like none of them are choices I want to make, and I have to choose one of them. The thing is, you may be making choices based on coping mechanisms that you learned through experiencing your trauma. So what that means is, like, going through a bunch of traumas will change anybody, or going through any kind of trauma is going to change someone. And some people have experienced traumas that are worse, in a lot of people's eyes than others. But ultimately, it doesn't matter what was worse and what wasn't as bad. Ultimately, it's how it affected that individual. And everyone experiences everything differently, especially hard times in life. So the thing is like, how do you tell the difference? Like, how do you know if you're making choices based on, like, the ways that you learned to cope based on what happened to you, or are you just making bad choices just because? So the first step, I believe, for me was, when making a choice, I realized all of this. After I'd realized all that, when I was making a choice, whether it's big or small, no matter what it is, it doesn't even have to be like about a relationship or anything. It could be any kind of choice. I needed to figure out why. Why am I ultimately, I'm just using that word a lot. Why am I making that choice? And what I mean by that is, are you making choices to make other people feel better, even if it leaves you feeling completely unhappy? Because that's something to realize. And it actually took me a long time to realize that I would actually be doing that a lot. When you're so used to doing stuff, like you almost don't even realize why you're doing it. It's out of habit. And really slowing down to notice and like think of the why, it's actually hard to realize, and it's hard to admit that you're not actually making choices because you want to do this stuff. You're making choices based on other people's opinions, or maybe you're making choices because you're afraid of what people think of you. Even if you made that choice, you would be so happy regardless of what other people thought of you. That's the whole point, is like, if once you start making choices because you want to make them, because it will make you happy, when you're happy, you don't really care what other people think. It takes a while to just do that. And that brings me to my other thing, is people pleasing. That is a big thing. Everyone wants everyone happy. Everyone wants to be around happy people. You don't want to go around making people angry. Only angry people do that, and it only makes you feel better for a little while. It doesn't last. So the thing with people pleasing is, if you just go around making everybody else happy, it's not bringing you enough. Because maybe it will make you a little bit happy, make you feel good, but ultimately it's not going to bring you any happiness, not long-term happiness. So learning when to say no is a big one, and I'm still learning how to do that. I'm still learning how to set boundaries. It's kind of hard when people are so used to you being a certain way and trying to change yourself and the way you do things, and then people are just really caught off guard, and then they think you're being rude because you're not normally like that. But you know what? They're gonna have to get used to it, because you need to get to a place where you can be happy and you can have peace of mind knowing that all the choices you're making are going to fulfill your life and make you happy. Okay, so let's say you figured all that stuff out. You're setting boundaries, and you can easily say no, or maybe you already set boundaries and you can easily say no, and you've already learned why you make the choices you did, and maybe you're making different choices, right? Well, after all of that, are you gonna feel better? Does trauma only affect us in that small way, like that easily you can change it? No. So after all that, what do? You need to find you again. You need to remember who you were before anything bad has happened to you, anything bad you've been through. You need to stop and try to remember the things that you loved to do before all of that happened. Things that would bring you peace, and things that would make you smile, or things that just make you happy, and things that spark joy in your life. It could be drawing, writing, painting, anything to do with art, if you like that kind of stuff. Really stop and think about, like, what kind of stuff did you quit doing after such and such happened to you, and how do you do that? What I did is I made a list of things that I used to do, and I used to write all the time, every single day. And it could be about anything, but I would always write. And I had so many notebooks. I would journal, I would make lists of all kinds of favorites, and that is a good thing to do. Make a list of all your favorite things and kind of remind you of things that you love, and then that can help you remember, a bunch of things that you love to do. And then you need to figure out if you're still interested in any of that stuff, and do those things. Read, write, do anything that will take your focus off of your trauma. Because if there's anything I know that when you kind of come to, because for me, things happened when I was younger, and it's kind of like you know it's not right, but you don't know how to bring it up to anybody, and so you just kind of live with it as a big giant secret. And when it hits you that that was really wrong, and like it's affecting your life as of now, 30 years later in my case, you really need to like work through all that stuff, and that could be really hard to face it, because with trauma, it's like if you're trying to work through, like if you are trying to work through your trauma, trust me, I know exactly how it feels. It feels like you're back at square one again. It feels like you're reliving your trauma. But that's probably the hardest part, is you need to really think about what happened, and either you can go talk to a counselor or a therapist, talk to someone like a professional, or someone you trust. But I do recommend talking to a counselor about everything because it just helps to talk to someone that doesn't really know you, but you can trust, a stranger that you can trust, because those are hard to come by. But so talking does help depending on who you talk to. Now, after all of that, that's the last thing, is probably the hardest part, is to actually like realize what really happened and how bad it actually affects you, and how what happened to you is actually creeping in on your life choices as of now. People think that, oh, it just happened, it's something bad that happened, and it's done, it's over with, and it doesn't affect me anymore, I can just ignore it. And that's the biggest problem right there, is you do not even realize how it has changed you. And when you start talking to someone, a professional, they really help you realize like how it actually affects like your daily choices in life. It could help you decide on horrible choices of men or women you choose to be with, and it affects a lot more than you realize. So just remember that. This is kind of hard to talk about, even though I'm not like explaining anything of what I went through. It's just like, obviously I'm thinking of it, it's just kind of odd, but I want to put videos out there like this. The thing is like after all that stuff, you would think you would feel a lot better, but the problem is then the negative comments or self-talk kind of creeps in, or maybe it's just never left and you've always been that way. So I noticed a pattern with me is I for some reason was just really positive, and then once I noticed that I was working through all my stuff, when it all hit me, I was not positive anymore, which I thought was kind of backwards. I felt like I should feel a lot happier. And I think I just couldn't get over the fact that like I felt like I was just different. And I felt like there's nothing I can do. I felt like I got robbed of who I could have been. So the negative self-talk is actually way worse than you think. It's kind of like there's a saying, I don't remember all of it, but it's almost like what you think or what you believe, you end up, something like whatever you think, be careful of what you think, you're going to start believing it, and then you're going to start saying it, and then it's just going to become your reality. Well, I ended up being really negative. And I actually had whoever I was dating at the time, different people and all kinds of people notice, like, and how do you not like, how do you not notice someone's negative? And it's kind of eye-opening when you have more than one person saying the same thing. Now, with that being said, just because a bunch of people are saying the same thing does not make it true. There's that. But anyways, so with the negative talk or negative things that I would think. It wasn't like I was trying to be negative. It's just, it ended up, it's really hard to work through your trauma, and it would put me in a bad mood because I was feeling a certain kind of way. And when you're not feeling your best, you notice the worst things. And the more often that happens, it just becomes a habit. And it's like you're training your brain without even realizing it to notice the negatives. And sooner than later, you won't be able to even notice any positives. So, and that can mean anything in life. Like, oh, it's a sunny day out. Everyone usually notices the weather, I wouldn't even notice things like that. You need to try to make it a habit to counteract those negative thoughts or negative self-talk or things that just come out your mouth that is just not nice. Counteract that with something positive. If you notice you're thinking something bad, like when you're driving around or whatever, and just catch yourself, like really pay attention to your thoughts. That's a big thing. Pay attention to your thoughts, because you need to retrain your thought process. And it just sounds crazy, but it's not even, I'm not even kidding. Every time you think something negative, try to notice that and stop. And instead of saying, oh, that's not true, or you can say that, but also think or say something positive, whether it's about the day. If you say something about the bad weather, say something good about the day. Just because it's a cloudy day doesn't make it a bad day. It's just weather. Ultimately, you will get to the point where you can decide to actually focus on the good and be happy. Now, trying to quit and like retrain your brain to focus on positive stuff is like really hard. I'm still trying to do that because I get caught up. It takes a long time, and I feel like I've been doing it forever. But the point is that you know that you do that. If you just take time and kind of like pay attention to what you're thinking, maybe write down some of the thoughts that you're thinking and really read it and look at what you're writing and look at the things that you're thinking all throughout the day, and maybe turn around and write down a bunch of positive stuff. And then now that you can see what you're thinking, because sometimes you just think stuff and you don't even realize like how much negative stuff you're thinking about. But anyways, so if you do that, you can retrain your brain to focus on the positives in life. And that doesn't make the negative stuff disappear by any means. I'm not trying to say like, oh, your life's just only going to be positive, but it does help like kind of minimalize, kind of, what do you call it? It helps make the negative stuff irrelevant. Like if people are saying mean things about you, who cares? Who cares? If you're happy, that is what matters. The more you do that, the happier you will be. Another thing is like, know that not every choice that you've had to make is your fault. Sometimes through life, and especially people who have gone through trauma, gone through like traumatic things, you will be dealt with a lot of hard choices to make. And neither one of those choices is going to be a good choice to make, but you have to make one regardless. And then that's not going to make any sense unless you know what I'm talking about. I can't really put it into any other kind of words, but if you know, you know. And just know that that's not always your fault. There's a ton of things that I did in my life, or like the ways that maybe I broke up with someone or anything. It could be, I don't even know. But it's like, looking back, I never, the way I am now and things that I have changed about myself, like I can't even honestly believe that I did that, but I give myself grace because I am not that person anymore. And I didn't realize how the way I would choose to do things was basically based on kind of like coping mechanisms. Not that it's not my fault at all. Ultimately, I mean, hurt people. Let's just say that. And if a lot of people would just realize that things that they've been through affected them more than they know, and maybe just talk to someone just to see if something actually is making your life a lot more difficult than it has to be, I think it's worth talking to someone. And you'll realize like that if everybody would talk to someone about anything they went through instead of sweeping it under the rug and pretending it didn't happen, there would be a lot less stress in the world. There would be a lot less unhappy people, a lot less angry people. It would help a lot of people. And each person that helps change the way they are, it makes it so it's like less people that they could have been hurting, or, you know, mentally, physically, whatever. Ultimately, you need to remember who you were before everything happened, and you need to know who you want to be, and know that it's not too late and you can change. You can be exactly who you imagine you could have been. The person who you think got robbed away from you, that person is still in there, and you need to break down the walls so they can come out and you can be the best version of yourself. But it starts with noticing how your trauma has affected you, and that's the hardest part. And then working through your trauma and realizing like how it affects you and how to work through that. And it's a long process, but I feel like it's really worth it. And as soon as you do that, it gets so much easier from then on. I don't know what else. I think that's pretty much it for all of that. But I heard my daughter. I kind of wanted to talk about real quick the fact that I don't really know how to start. But I guess looking back, if I took care of all of this years ago, obviously I wouldn't be where I am now. And I'm happy where I am now. But the thing is like, let's just put it this way. If you do this, you could save yourself, if you're single and you do this, you work on yourself, you could save yourself so many bad relationships. Not saying that every relationship you get into is going to be horrible because you're not working on yourself. But what I am saying is it could help you decide who to actually choose to be with a lot easier, instead of choosing these guys that also probably need to work on themselves. And, you know, they think a lot of stuff that's not okay is okay. And I know for me, I would not be in the situation I'm in if I worked on myself a long time ago. I know I would not have the kids that I have because I probably would not have ended up with the guys that I ended up with. And I have kids with more than one man. And a lot of people look down on that. But what a lot of people fail to realize is that it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care what you think, number one. And if I was so afraid of what people thought, I would only have one kid, because there would be no way that I would have more than one kid with the first guy. Let me just say that. There would be no way. Not after how that ended. And nothing against him. He had a lot of stuff. I obviously didn't work on myself because I didn't know any better. I didn't know what I was doing or saying or the way I was, or like super jealous and everything else. Like, I didn't know how I was actually affecting the relationship, and then us together, it was just not good. But if I stayed in that relationship, things would have got a lot worse than they ended up. So I had my first son, and then I went on into the next relationship, and I didn't want my son to be an only child. And then here I am with another guy and another baby. And can I just say right now, I never imagined this would be where I was. But if I had imagined that, or this situation, if I had imagined this, I probably would have been looking at it like, wow, that's really screwed up. But knowing how I am and knowing what I have gone through and what I have had to go through in order to get where I'm at, I know that I'm really blessed and I'm lucky that I worked on myself, and I am still continuing to work on myself. It's not like it just ends. You just try to be a better version of yourself than you were the day before. And every little bit counts. You can't just let a day go by without noticing what you're doing. Everything you do matters, and you can't just go through life acting like it doesn't matter. You can't just say whatever you want to say to people. It matters. Everything you do and say matters. So the point I'm trying to make is what I have and where I am and who I'm with and my kids, like, this is everything I dreamed of. And I cannot imagine not being where I'm at, or not being who I am with, or not having 3 kids. I cannot imagine that life. It's really hard. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. I hope this helps someone out there. Maybe start to go talk to someone, or at least do some of the things that I said, like write down the things that you used to love to do and start doing them. At least do something that will make you feel better. And especially the negative talk, you need to start with positive talk and try to focus on the good things. When you're having a hard day, especially, stop, take a deep breath, and like wherever you're sitting, look around and try to notice like 5 things, 5 good things, or 5 things you like, or just 5 things that like make you feel good. Look around and notice 5 things, because it'll like make you stop thinking about what you're thinking of in the first place, first off. And it'll also make you feel better, because kind of like snap you back to reality and be like, oh, that's what I was going to say. If all else fails, my cat's snoring. Okay. She is so loud. If all else fails, sometimes you just need to wake up when you're having a rough day, and you need to wake up and realize who the F you are. Realize that you have surpassed all the hardest parts of your life, and you made it. You survived the worst of the worst, and you're here. And maybe you feel like you're a little messed up, but it's fixable. You can change, and you can start today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, comment down below, and stay tuned for more. Bye.